I want to talk a little bit about what function debates serve. Why do we do debates? Obviously, when you say a politician goes up on the stage and they're talking to another guy saying, "Oh, you're gonna say that, haha, I'm gonna laugh at you and make fun of you, and I have the better points, I have the better one-liners that can rile up the crowd." The purpose of that is not to convince the other side of why they're incorrect. The purpose is to rile up the audience enough by finding these little psychological tactics that can pinch the other person and make them look weak, whereas you make yourself look strong by being able to remain remain calm during the event and know when to take those jabs and knowing how to make yourself look like the big dog in the room, because that's what people want. They want to be able to see that someone is, angry and mean in just the right ways while also being, down to earth and just like them. This person cheats on their wife just like I do. Wow, he's such a normal guy. Like that's the type of audience that these people are trying to get when they're in these debates, because the idea there is just to rile up the people who are going to vote. There's a lot of people who don't vote because they see through this. They see how establishment politics are just people trying to gaslight and manipulate you, and they just tune out. They don't vote at all. They don't participate in politics, and they say, "I am independent." That's a good majority of the country who can vote. They just don't, because they see this. They see why it's corrupt. That in both cases, one politician is going to have moneyed interests behind them, and then the other is going to have moneyed interests behind them. So their positions aren't going to change because their positions don't necessarily come from what they believe. They come from, what they're paid to believe. Or at the very least, their positions line up with the people who pay them enough for them to accept those payments. And so, you think of someone like Bernie Sanders, someone who's been saying the exact same fucking things over and over and over again for the last 50 years. People respond well with him who do not vote because they can see that there's principledness there, that he is not coming from the establishment being paid by these big donors. He's going out to spread his message because he's believed in this message for, decades now. And he's continued to say that he believes in this message for decades now. On very few things has he yielded and changed his mind. And so people see that and they respect it. And the people who don't vote respond well to it. They like it because it feels genuine. It doesn't feel like when you're on the presidential stage debating somebody else and you're just trying to have these stupid one-liners to have the gotcha moment that gets the person uncomfortable and makes them look weak. You think of the debates between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. There's this moment where Ronald Reagan catches Jimmy Carter and he makes him look very weak and stupid on the question of healthcare. Because Jimmy Carter, he starts doing this big speech about how, under Ronald Reagan's administration, he would cut healthcare in all these different ways. And then Reagan ends up just like sitting there like laughing. He's like, "Oh, this person's so dumb." Like he looks as if he doesn't take anything that Carter is saying seriously, whereas Carter is visibly nervous. He's almost shaking. You can see it in his eyes. He's just rattling off the things that he believes. And so Reagan comes back and he says that's not what I would do. Healthcare would be totally fine under my administration, which is obviously not true, but that's what he said. And because he was laughing in Carter's face, and he quickly came back and made fun of him by saying, "Oh, this is what you always do," or whatever. And I haven't seen this clip in like 2 years, so my memory isn't the best, but you say, "Oh, this is what you always do," and then he hits him back with lying about policy in a very simple way with very few big words that people can laugh and say, oh, the rich actor guy is so good, whereas this weakling over here, not good at all. But that's the purpose of presidential debates. So the question is, what is the purpose of debates on the internet, online debates like Hasan and Destiny? Because I've been watching these YouTube channels quite a lot today. I've been going through Destiny's debates and Hasan's debates, and I've just been listening to them in the background as I do other things. And there was this one specifically that caught me off guard by Hasan, where he debated this alt-light guy on various subjects like imperialism, states' rights. They talked about a lot of different things in the debate, but it got kind of off track because Hasan just kept continually insulting him and laughing at him, which on the one hand made Hasan look like he was very strong in his position, and it riled his audience up to support the ideas further. But what is the utility of that when Hasan's audiences are going to continue coming back and believing the exact same things? They're going to continue seeing him in the same way. This guy, if you're debating directly with him, smugness is not the way, because no one likes that. No one is going to believe you if you give evidence alone. You have to show that you care, that you are a human being just like them, you respect them, and you can empathize with them. And I realize with someone who you vehemently disagree with, that's going to be hard to show that. But you have to show that, or else they're not going to be convinced. If you just sit there and laugh at somebody's face and tell them that they're stupid, they're probably not going to like you very much. What's the likelihood that they'll change their position if you sit there and just laugh at them? And that's all he was doing the entire time. He gave lots of evidence. He said, these are the logical reasons as to why I believe these things, but that's not going to work. You can't just give the logical reasons for why you believe something, because humans are emotional creatures. And Hasan doesn't want to admit this, but the reason why he believes in his arguments are also an emotional reason. You can't get away from this. And I think the basis of empathy in debates should be able to recognize that each person has biases and each person has an emotional reason, an emotional underpinning for why they believe the things that they do, and that those things are fallible and not necessarily objectively correct. Objective correctness cannot exist when it comes to moral value judgments. It can exist in the field of observable reality, of being able to say that, yes, this statistic is that, this happened or this didn't happen. We can observe and investigate with scientific techniques. But when it comes to the nuances of the why, these are subjective value judgments. Even our own interpretation of the direct evidence, the science, that in and of itself is subjective. And if you realize this, if you realize that this is your personal view, it's fallible, it's subject to change even, and on some level it's emotionally based, even the most principled people are usually principled because their emotions tell them to, because they have a specific event in their life that have led them to become this way, that their emotions rely on it. And so realizing that those emotions exist, that's the reason why you're doing this, that you have this position, not just that there's logical reasons as well. There's logical reasons on all sides. All sides have some logical reasons that they extrapolate to justify their own emotions. Some sides have more logical reasons than others, but people aren't being malicious. They're just misguided on certain issues. And if you can let him know that, if you can let him know that you care, that you don't use the words misguided, by the way, that sounds terrible. Don't ever use those words. But if you let him know that you care, that you understand where he's coming from, that you've had experiences that are similar, experience is very important in this regard as well. If you can identify with an experience someone's had and then tell them I've experienced something similar and I came to a different conclusion, that will connect with someone way more than just sitting there and laughing at them and going, haha, 200 IQ. What is that going to do other than just bolster your own audience? That's not going to convince the guy. The goal of online debating should be to convince the other person of your side. And it's not going to work in one debate. It's a gradual process. It's a gradual process of empathy, trying to understand the other person's position, and of listening, asking questions instead of just yelling at them and being pretentious, you know? And so, I don't know. It honestly makes me kind of sad watching some of these debates, because, like, I know Hasan is right about this stuff, because I've read the same stuff, and I've come to the same conclusions, and the place that I come from generally agrees with those conclusions, the place that I was raised in. And so, of course, I'm going to agree. I'm going to know what he's saying. But that other guy, he comes from a way different place. It doesn't make him less human. It doesn't even necessarily make him a bad person. It just means that the circumstances within his life have led him to be this way. And he needs help. He needs help from someone else to show him that, you know, racism and these other kinds of things aren't necessarily good. And the only way to do that is by showing that you care and that you disagree, but you respect his position and that you're willing to calmly argue your side. That's all you can do. But every single time one of these fucking smug leftists goes on one of these debate shows and goes, ha ha ha, you know, I know everything and you don't, all you're doing is making that person feel 10 times stronger about the position that they have, because they know that all of their opponents now are just these shitty edgelords who believe that they have a higher IQ than everybody else because they watch Rick and Morty, you know? So, it makes me really sad to see stuff like this, because on the one hand, yeah, it is an entertainment, but entertainment in this context is just masturbatory. That's what all these streams are. It's just people sitting there jerking their fucking dick over and over and over again, saying, haha, I'm so right, I believe that I'm right, and it makes them feel good to feel like they're right. What did you accomplish with that? What did you do? All you did was make your audience feel like they're right too by sitting here and having the guts to yell at this poor guy about how right you are and insult him, and then you made yourself feel good for having the courage to do that. But beyond that, you have accomplished absolutely nothing. Maybe a few people will feel ashamed of themselves enough by watching your content that they'll switch over from the alt-right to your side. That has happened with some people. Those stories are legitimate. I'm not just tossing them aside, but the majority of people who come across this stream are not going to do that. I think what is far more powerful is being able to sit there and watch somebody not lose their cool, just ask questions, just give as much evidence as possible, while not being overbearing and mean, while saying you understand, while making jokes as a friend would, being nice, and ending up to agree to disagree on certain things, and maybe getting them to concede certain things. If you look like a reasonable person who is coming at this from a rational, friendly point of view, I'm telling you, you're going to be able to get more people on your side that way. Because no one likes a smug asshole. Some people do. But by and large, the people who disagree with you don't want to see you be smug. And so, instead, a better alternative would be able to come up and just be a nice guy who people can chat with. who they feel that they can chat with, and is funny, is cool, that's going to be way more likely to get people on your side than just sitting there and being pretentious, you know. And I've been saying this for years and years, man. And watching these live streams, I feel like I just need to reiterate it. Is that the only way you can have any chance of winning is by being kind. Otherwise, you're just sitting there masturbating, which serves no purpose whatsoever other than to make yourself feel good. I used to like arguing like that. I used to like feeling like I trapped somebody and made them admit things but not fully concede my point, making them look pathetic and all these other kinds of things. But those perceptions were only in my mind. Those were things that I had came up with, but the only material example of success is by making someone else turn to your side. There's no other example of success other than that, because the idea of making someone look pathetic or destroying them without them changing their position is just a concept that you've created in your head psychologically as an interpretation of events. You know what's provable? Someone changing their position. That's useful. That's another person in your movement to help change things. Do you actually care about the movement that you represent? Do you care about social justice and good stuff? Do you care about those things? Because if you did, you would be working much, much harder to empathize and discuss with people how we can build a better society, and you would be out there building a better society, doing whatever you can for that to happen. But instead, you sit there on Twitch, laughing and saying, "Oh, you're so dumb because you disagree with me. Great job. You just accomplished so much towards your aspirations of making a better society and of educating people on the subjects that are important to you." Absolutely fucking worthless, dude. And it just makes me sad seeing all this wasted potential of these guys trying to debate and not being able to empathize with the person at all or just be nice, not being able to try to move them in their direction, and instead just alienating people further. There's no point to that.